What makes an artwork stand out from the crowd? It's a question we all narcissistically ask with feigned neutrality. And I'll show you using the perfect case study. 100 artists all solving the exact same design challenge. The video is sponsored by Fox Render Farm. If my eyes are redder than usual, it's because I just watched all the render challenges. And seeing them all in a row, you really get a sense for what works and what doesn't. Seriously, studying these render challenges actually taught me a lot. So here's the framework. A good idea, well done. Let's break that down. I think every successful submission has a strong theme and a strong narrative. Now, what do I mean by theme? I mean, what is your artwork about? This one is about doing a huge task with equanimity. This one is about chasing love. This one is about, if you look at your own artwork and you can't really tell what it's about, then that's a sign that maybe it lacks some depth. And it's worth thinking about that because most people won't actually care about it. They'll see a pretty picture and feel nothing. I talk more about themes in this video. It's worth watching if you care about the topic. By the way, I'm not making fun of anyone. All of these clips are good, but some are just very good for illustrating my point. So if you made any of these clips, great job. Okay, the narrative. Now, the narrative gives your art a message. And if you can tell a little story, then that makes people so much more interested in your work. But you probably know that. So it's worth arguing the opposite. Just humor me for a second. See, your clip only lasts for a few seconds, right? You can't tell crime and punishment in that time. Hell, you can't even tell a basic fable. There's a hare and a tortoise, and they're racing, and the hare gets too confident because it's much faster than the tortoise, so it stops to rest and falls asleep, so the tortoise slowly walks past and wins the race. If you have a bunch of characters all doing different things, it's going to be too much. So simplify. Tell one clear story. And you don't even have to show everything in the scene, right? People are smart. If you just hint at what came before and what will come after, then people will get it. Okay, the second half. Well done. What makes a work well done? Why, it's as simple as a two-step process, don't you know? Because it fits the format of my video. Those two are composition and fidelity. These challenges demand a clear composition. Like ridiculously clear, because every few seconds the audience sees a new composition with a new story, and they won't have time to understand your Hieronymus Bosch painting. So I say start with the composition, like basic shapes, lights, and just see if it reads. And I have a little bit of a recipe for that now. I know there's no recipe for good composition, but this is a good place to start. Light from behind and pay attention to areas of light and dark. Light from behind and pay attention to areas of light and dark. Does wonders. Fidelity is the effort you put into your details. It's photorealism and using high quality assets. For stylized scenes, it's refining your stylization. You can call it polish. This is an area where AI is super useful. Say I've gotten to this point with an artwork, right? And I'm not quite happy, but I can't really tell what's wrong. So I run it through an image to image in AI, and it just shows me exactly what the next step is. Like, what would my image look like if it were finished? This is perfect reference for that polish stage. I haven't tried this for stylized shots though, so I'd be interested to hear your experiences. I have written this framework up in a cheat sheet for you that you can download for free. I even wrote a few more tips there to help you take the ideas even further. I think this is a really good framework, and if you don't agree, then you can go find the videos and watch them yourself. And I recommend that you do that because it's really useful. And when you see these 100 solutions to the same design problem side by side, then you'll see exactly what works for you. Now, I know it's hard to tell, but I'm not perfect. So I thought it would be fun to go through some of my previous submissions and rate myself. Okay, so this is the first submission I ever made to a one of these challenges, and it's the Moving Meditations Challenge by Clint. In terms of theme, does this thing have a clear theme? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Because it seems to be about like control and you're not in control of your own destiny or something like that. You could spin that yarn. But it's not really. It's just a marionette. And a marionette in itself isn't more than a marionette. I should have added some element to make it actually about this. So for instance, it could have had a human character, right? Who obviously doesn't want to be controlled, or it could be a character who obviously doesn't care about being controlled. Now, in terms of fidelity, this is probably the weakest point. Things don't look real here. If you look at the hand, the hand looks like plastic. There's the render issue. The curtain doesn't look real. All the flames are synchronized, so you can see that I obviously used the same plate for all of them. Textures aren't super high res, so it kind of looks like a low quality render, to be honest. Okay, this one was for boss fight. It's a cartoon, you know, it's a mechanic reading the manual, trying to fix the problem of this broken machine. It doesn't work. The alarm goes off, and you get a menacing monster-like face out of it. It's about doing something complicated. What's the narrative? What happens? Well, it has a narrative. It goes from being broken, trying to fix it, things getting worse. The composition. I wanted to make it feel chaotic. You know, I wanted to make it feel like a very complicated thing. And that's a huge challenge, right? To make something seem complicated while not having a cluttered composition. It's a huge challenge. And I don't think I nailed it. I don't think so. Okay, I'm kind of embarrassed to show this one. I wanted to make it a realistic render, which takes a lot of work. But it does have a theme. Modern life in the wilderness is tough. Not a terrible idea, actually. I think with a better execution, this one could have made it big. I'm not super proud of it right now. The composition. I think I did a good job on this. I think so. You have the opening, right? The first thing you do, this one is in the middle of someone else's scene, and you see the kangaroos. I introduced the scene. They jump away, you wonder why. Here comes big splash, boom, there's a car, right? And then this part should have been highlighted more. Like, you don't really see what happens, and the animation is terrible, so it doesn't look like this is how it would work. This thing falls down, you see it silhouetted against the sky, and then finally we focus on the next person's scene with the piece of cloth or paper flying into the next person's scene. If I had to critique the composition on anything, I would say that there may be too many things in too little time. Maybe. In terms of fidelity, it's not great. It's not up to par. This is my submission for the Eternal Ascent Challenge by Clint, and it was disqualified. Can you guess why? It's in the name. It's called Eternal Ascent, and I twisted it to be a descent. I'll show you how it works. So here's the scene that we were given, right? This guy walking up the stairs. And this is my scene. The girl walking down the stairs. And you can see it does work. The camera move is the same. The person is in the same spot. This is why I thought I was being super clever, right? And even one of the rules were you have to maintain the shape of the stairs, or the visual weight, they said. And so I added this carpet, right? Which does follow that exact shape of the stairs. And I thought, I'm being so clever because if you haven't caught it yet, this is a scene from Titanic. And the Titanic was supposed to be up, but it went down. But I did not read all the rules. I missed a bunch of the rules. Am I allowed to reanimate the character? And it said, no, you're not allowed to do that. And I had to do that for this one. So obviously it's a love story. It's about these two characters meeting for the gala, and then we fade over to the aftermath of the disaster that happened that obviously separated them. That's the theme. It's love and then being torn apart, stolen straight from the movie. Now, the narrative is only hinted at. It's not shown explicitly, which I think is one of this clip's strengths. Now, in terms of composition, almost every single submission suffered from this is having two subjects. You have the character and you have what's beyond the stairs, and balancing those is kind of tricky. I did that by pulling a lot of detail away from the character, the guy standing downstairs, and only leaving his silhouette, meaning that there's not much to look at there. You get everything that's there to get in just a fraction of a second. And most of the interest is on the woman walking down, who has this flowing dress, she's moving her hands. That is the clear subject. And another challenge with this one was, imagine this being in the middle of the top 100 montage. You've already seen 50 submissions all going the exact same way, right? They have the same camera move, and then suddenly, flip, you're now looking down. That is jarring. And so I had to make sure that you understood what's happening. That's the reason for the heavy fog, so that you can tell depth, right? And I made stair nosings so that you could very easily tell that there were steps going down. Funny story, when I made this, there was a Titanic exhibition in Melbourne where I lived. And so I went there and they had recreated this grand staircase, which is also featured in the movie. I photo scanned the whole thing and used that as reference to get all the proportions just right. And not only that, but this exhibition had pulled up artifacts, and I photo scanned those too, and those made it into this scene. And so parts of this cherub statue here is from the actual Titanic. Now, if you're feeling inspired, you'll be looking for a render challenge, and there is one going on right now. The theme is the ruins, and it's being held by this video's sponsor, Fox Render Farm. Submit an image with your interpretation of the theme ruins within 1 month from the day this video goes up. And that may seem like plenty of time, but let me tell you, that time goes by fast, and you don't want to spend a minute more on rendering than you have to. They didn't ask me to say this, but I think every 3D artist should have a render farm, like Fox. You just send your file to them, and they will render it for you. You literally just drag your scene file into this window, wait for their computers to churn it out, and then download it. It goes super fast, and you get more time to focus on artistry. So if you sign up with my link, they give you $50 to render for.